Who knew? Who knew that standing in one place and talking to a camera could be so complicated? Welcome to Sunbeams. I'm Amy and I have a story for you today. So if you've ever been to girls camp, you know you learn a lot about yourself and a lot about life. For example, I learned in motherhood to be grateful that children come one at a time and you're not suddenly mother to 22 12-year-olds. Yep. My very last year at girls camp, I was 17 and I was YCL over 22 first level girls. And so the first levels, it's their very first time at camp and you want them to have just the most perfect week, because I don't know how it was at yours, but at our girls camp it seemed like the first year of camp had the biggest number of girls come and then the numbers slowly dwindled year by year. So I was feeling some pressure to help these girls have the best girls camp week of their lives so they'd want to come back. So at girls camp you go out into the woods for a week and do scouty things like building fires and pitching tents and learning first aid, but you also have a lot of spiritual experiences and spend a lot of time in nature and in your scriptures and learn about being a daughter of God. And I don't know how your girls camp went, but ours was the whole state coming together in one camp, and so it was really a way for all of us to get to know each other because we were so far spread out. And sometimes you made some of your best friends at girls camp. I love girls camp. I had so many fun times, but really I think the most memorable was my very last year. So this particular week at girls camp, it was raining like crazy the first couple days. Each level always takes their own long hike on Wednesday. And so we wake up Wednesday morning and I'm halfway hoping it's still raining so we don't have to hike. But miraculously it all cleared up, and so we loaded up our backpacks and our lunches and our scriptures and put on our jeans to go out in the Illinois humidity to sweat to death while we hike up and down hills in the woods. I'm sorry if it's not my favorite part of the week. There are many other wonderful parts of girls camp and I just never was a huge fan of the hikes. As a YCL too, your hiking experience is very different. I feel like I spent the whole hike running from the front of the group to the back of the group to the front of the group to the back of the group, just helping girls everywhere in the middle and encouraging them. So an hour into the hike, we've walked to the top of a hill and we're walking along this ridge in the woods and we're going for a while, and then we realize we're not sure where the trail in front of us has gone. And then we look behind us and we're not sure where we've come from, and we realize that the torrential rain the couple days before had totally washed out the whole trail and there were no markers that we could see anywhere on that hill. So here we are in the middle of the woods with 22 12-year-olds who are really not having a great time as it is, and we have to get back to camp somehow even though we don't know where we are. I'll admit it, easy. On the inside, I was freaking out and I was praying like crazy. I just kept thinking, I'm responsible for whatever happens on this hike. I am responsible. I am the mom of these girls and I'll have to answer to their moms if anything happens to us. So we kind of huddle up and we're talking things through amongst ourselves, and we realize all of the creeks at camp run perpendicular to the main road that goes through the middle of our camp. And so we think, okay, if we can just follow a creek all the way down, at some point we're gonna run into our road, in theory. So it really seemed like the best option we had. And half of our first levels had already run down the ravine into the creek. So creek it is. This creek bed was not safe. After the storms, there were trees that fell down and blocked the path. There were huge boulders, sharp rocks, and everything's muddy and wet. To a YCL's eyes, everything was a death trap. Luckily, the creek was low, so we had a creek bed to walk alongside it. And so, praying like crazy on the inside, I start corralling these girls down the creek. At one point, there's a huge fallen log that I plant myself in the middle of. And we start handing one girl at a time over top of it to get through safely. At another point, there's this muddy ledge that we have to walk along down this drop off, and so I'm standing under the ledge, propping up their feet as they walk past on the muddy ledge so it doesn't collapse and they all fall down. We had lots of slips and falls, and so there were a lot of muddy and wet girls. Everyone's shoes were probably ruined. Now, throughout all of this, the 4th level girls had split up among the 3 younger levels to help out on their hikes. And so one precious 4th level named Anna, she was the hero of the day. Anna appointed herself in charge of morale. And so every time she and I would lock eyes, she would yell, "Best hike ever! Best hike ever!" I'm telling you, Anna saved the day. Everyone needs an Anna in their lives. Choose to be the Anna in every hard situation. And I should reiterate, everyone else seemed to be having a great time. To be honest, if I weren't in charge, I would be loving it too. It was an adventure. We were scrambling over boulders, jumping over the creek. We were trailblazing. We were better than the Boy Scouts. The girls were catching frogs and collecting rocks, and they were having a good time. It was for sure a lot more fun than our hike up the ridge. So we're hiking through the creek for maybe 20-30 minutes, and I'm starting to kind of look at my watch and kind of feel like it should be around any corner that we see a bridge, that we see our trail. I'm really starting to kind of feel the pressure and be like, oh no, did we go the wrong way? Should we go the other way down the creek? Something has been miscalculated and we're gonna be here till tomorrow. And then we turn a corner and what do we see? But the 2nd levels, also in the creek. I can't even tell you how it felt to see that group of girls. Yeah, they're in a tough situation, but we're in this together and we're not alone, all in the creek together. I think I ran straight up to the YCLs in that 2nd level and gave them huge hugs and probably burst into tears. And then fell down laughing because I can't believe it. All of us YCLs formed kind of a chain up this like 2 or 3 story tall muddy slide of a hill. And so we've got YCLs daisy chained up the hill and we're passing girls one at a time up the hill. And after a lot of heavy lifting, all of us are at the top, gathered in the woods in this kind of clearing, and we have all of the girls sit down, and then we ask one girl to offer a prayer, to ask for help so we can find the trail and get back to camp. Kid you not, immediately after that prayer ended, we all stand up and form our lines in our groups, and we part the thicket and the bushes, and there's the trail right on the other side. And so it was like a 10-minute hike back to camp from there. And I ran up to our camp leader, shout out to Sister Twister, and gave her a huge hug. She had no idea what we'd just been through, and we were probably back early from our hikes, so she was especially confused. But I gave her a huge hug and burst into tears, and I said, Heavenly Father loves those girls so much. And I just cried because I couldn't believe what we'd just been through, and everyone was fine. It could have been so bad, and we were all fine. So the rest of camp is comparatively uneventful, as you can imagine, after that. And then it gets to the end of the week testimony meeting, and every single one of my first levels who got up and bore their testimonies talked about how awesome the hike was. But especially moving, the girl who gave the prayer, she bore her testimony about how she knows that prayer works. And being the one who gave the prayer right before we found the trail was so meaningful to her. Girls camp. It's amazing how things can go pretty wrong, and then at the end, Heavenly Father makes it great. So that's my story. I know you have many amazing and hilarious and miraculous girls camp stories too, so send them to me and send me some pictures, and I would so love to share them here. I'm looking at you, Danger Dale. That's my story. Let me know what you thought. Shout out to Sister Twister, Huffy Puffy, and Hilo, who were the masterminds behind our camp experience. Subscribe to our channel for more uplifting and awesome content.